Alright guys, today I'm making a really quick lunch because I've got a meeting soon and I kind of need to eat something. We're going to make beans on toast. We're going to make it nice and simple. Not to everyone's taste, but I quite like it. It's a little bit more interesting than your normal, just opening a tin. But should take probably, I don't know, 5 minutes maybe? Yeah. Try not to slice my fingers off there. There's, some garlic. I don't know, I normally buy the slightly larger loose garlic, which I find come with much bigger bulbs, but my Tesco's didn't have them, so we have these. We're going to use about 50 grams worth of chorizo. I've got a whole red onion because I have a load of red onions right now and kind of want to just use them up. You can probably use a little bit less. Could use more if you wanted to, if you really like onion. But that's what I'm using. So I'm just going to quickly do a very, very rough, disgusting dice of that onion. Because I don't care, and we're just trying to get some food in before we start work again. I've also added some chilli. Just using normal, basic beans. They work. So I'm going to get the pot on a bit of heat. I'm not going to be fancy, just using vegetable oil. If you haven't got squeezy bottles for your oil, I strongly recommend. They're like a couple of £1 on Amazon, but you can do that, and that's just really satisfying. Probably not the healthiest, but we're going to keep moving. So we've got, an onion. Probably could do with a little bit less onion, but let's not waste it. I've got 2 quite small finger chilies. I like my food spicy, so they're going in. You could ignore that if you don't want it. If I make this for my girlfriend, I don't put that in there. Once that's come up to heat, what we're going to do, we're going to throw the chorizo in first because that's got a load of fat in it that we want to render out. So, bang that in the bowl. Well, from the bowl, I suppose. It's got a spoon. And we're just going to let that sweat out some of its fat. Once it is, once it's got all its fat rendered out, we'll throw in some vegetables and they will then cook in the lovely mix of vegetable oil and chorizo fat. As we can see, that's sort of, you can see the colour coming out of the chorizo and moving into sort of the vegetable oil. That's kind of what we were looking for. We'll just keep moving it around. We don't necessarily want to cook the chorizo out fully at this stage, because obviously this is going to be in there for a little bit long, because obviously everything is going to be cooked in this one pot, so they don't need to be really cooked at this point, because yeah, they're going to be in there for another about 5 minutes. But now that I've started having the fat coming out, I'm just going to dump in all of my vegetables. So chili, going with, again, this was probably way too much onion, but we'll survive. And then some garlic. That was probably about, I'm going to say 4 small cloves of garlic, but if you've got bigger cloves, you probably could use less. If you've got minced garlic you want to use, you could just use that. Doesn't need to be fancy. I just had some garlic that was about to go off in my fridge and wanted to use it. I'm going to turn that heat down to probably like a medium-high heat. If you've got electric, I don't know, you can work out what that is. Basically, fry some onions and vegetables. Got some beans, cheap-ass beans, but we're making them fancy, so the cheap-ass beansness doesn't really matter. But to be honest, quite like these beans just as they are. I cannot tell the difference between fancy beans and normal beans. Okay. Now we've got that already all coming together, the fat has come out of the chorizo and the onions are starting to soften, we're going to throw in some spices. A bit of turmeric, a bit of colour, A little bit more chili powder. Again, I like my food spicy, so it's spicy. I'm going to put a little bit of coriander and a little bit of garam masala. Now that's all in there, just going to fry that together. Let that oil, let all the spices sort of just infuse into the oil a little bit. So sort of waking it up before we just dump a load of the beans in there. If you don't sort of let it come to life with the oil, you can end up with like a powdery texture in your beans, which isn't the best. I've definitely done it quite a few times in the past. Yeah, this way it makes it a little bit nicer and all the flavours will meld together a little bit better. Okay, now that has sort of come together and those onions are starting to catch, I'm going to turn that heat down a little bit and we're going to throw it into the beans. And we're going to just let that mix it all together so all the flavours can mix and come together nicely. While that starts to just bubble away, I'm going to make some toast because I'm having beans on toast for lunch. You could have this, I've had this before just in a bowl, just eating beans. That's quite nice. Or like with some pita bread, it's quite nice. But today I'm just having the staple, beans on toast. Okay, so we've got some toast. I'm going to put some butter on those. I'm not going to show you how to butter toast because I feel if you can't, probably shouldn't be watching this. See you in a minute. And if by movie magic, we've got buttered toast. At this point, all of your spices and vegetables and chorizo and beans have all mixed together. So, kill the heat, pull that off. Also, my pan has grown a handle. And we're just going to dump these on there. Again, this isn't the most fancy of meals, but it's a moderately healthy, really nice tasting, and probably took 10 minutes. So, if you enjoyed that, subscribe, like, all of those things that social media want you to do, and I'll make some more videos. Farewell.